Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call tonight's meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, August 26, 2014. It looks like it's about 7:02 p.m. We have a village board meeting followed by a committee of the whole meeting. Our first item is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sherby, would you please call the roll?
Trustee Calpagio.
Present.
Trustee Tusa. Present. Trustee Perry.
Present.
Trustee Rita is absent. Trustee Stecker.
Present.
Trustee Yorkovich.
Present.
President Bowman.
Present. We do have a quorum this evening. Our next item is presentations. Do we have any presentations?
We
Jan?
do not.
No, nothing. Our next item is public comments and questions. Anybody, general matters, active? Introduce yourself for the board.
Good evening. My name is Bill Ostendorf. I live at 2901 Mayfair. Many of you know I've come here several times over the last year asking questions about stormwater issues. One of my principal questions was what's happening to the detention over at the corporate office center at 22nd and Wolf Road. And I'm a little frustrated. It's been over a year since I asked this question. I still hadn't gotten a response. You know, I got a couple times I got the old shuffle that we'll look into it and get back to you. Well, don't wait for the check in the mail. You know, that hasn't happened. I came in here today and met the new village engineer, Mr. Lewis, and I brought up the question to him about detention over there. So yeah, I checked into that, and I called over there and said, hey, where's the restrictor in your pond? You know what the answer was? Does anybody know what the answer was from the people over there? Where's the restrictor in your pond? Oh, we took it out because the fluctuating water was killing the grass around the pond. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? People's houses are getting flooded out. The village is spending all kinds of money and overtime for guys to work on the pond and pumping out and all that kind of stuff. And we're worried about some grass at the corporate center. That pond is supposed to hold 8.4 acre-feet of water, which is more than 10% of the capacity of the Mayfair pond. I wonder how many houses were flooded out because we're worried about the grass at the corporate center.
Now, who mentioned about the grass? It's news to us. Who said something about the grass? Was that the corporate center people telling Robert about the grass?
They're not calling him, he was calling them.
Right, but I'm just saying that's where that comment came from?
That's right. I'm repeating Mr. Lewis's words to me this morning. Now that's ridiculous. You know, we wait a year for somebody to pick up the phone and says, where the hell is the doggone restrictor? You know, didn't anybody ever go out and look at the fact that there isn't a restrictor out there? I mean, I feel like I've come up here for a year and nothing's happened. He walks in the door, here's here for a couple of weeks, sees the issue, gets to it, it's over with. It's not completely over with, but it's happened. And I'm really disappointed that, you know, nobody has checked into this thing in over a year. I think after talking to Mr. Lewis, and I know about his background, and he's a very capable engineer, and we better start listening to what he says about engineering issues and such around the village. Thanks.
The only commentary is, when you did come in, we did contact MWRD. I believe they did send a letter to our community development director regarding the restrictor, but at that time, no one knew who took the restrictor out, and they were given a certain amount of time, 30 days or 60 days or something, to reinstall that restrictor. So there was commentary from John Murray. I think we have a letter from Mr. Murray regarding that piece, that they were putting the restrictor in. No one seemed to know who took it out, why it was taken out, or when it was taken out. I mean, that's the last information that we
When
had.
did the 30 days start? I mean, this is a year ago. This is a year ago that I posed this question. A year ago. When did the 30 days start? I mean, there have been a lot of 30 days on the calendar where nothing happened, and it still is not in there.
Well, this was in response to your email to me back in the spring regarding the retention pond at the towers, and I immediately forwarded your email and my comments to MWRD, who went out there in the spring. So, Melissa, I don't have the letter in front of me,
So
but
the question is,
yeah.
which 30 days are we gonna be talking about? Are we gonna wait for another 30 days, a year from now, or another 30 days for this thing to get in?
Yeah.
When does the 30-day period start that they have to?
I think Melissa has some more information for you.
I don't have the letter in front of me, so I don't know the exact date that they were given, but I believe it was sometime in July that they had a compliance deadline to be compliant with their MWRD permit. They requested an extension, and that extension was granted. I actually happened to be at a meeting with the folks at Arden today, and they mentioned that they would have it installed within their deadline for compliance.
And when is that?
I don't know what that deadline is, because that was established with the district.
Okay, well, I'll be looking for it.
But I think it's coming soon. I think that deadline is coming up.
We'll do this, we'll follow up tomorrow and give you the date that they were given the extension
I'd
to.
appreciate that.
Okay?
Thank you.
And thank you for being the watchdog at our two events on August 5th and 6th. And I understand you were tapping your toe at Sunnyside and Carlisle. Watching every movement of our of Dave out there and making sure that the water that we pumped out of the sewer there, the storm sewer, was getting in the appropriate green space.
You know, I didn't realize that was you standing out there at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning with your black raincoat on, and I thought it was since you grew the beard, I thought you looked like Rasputin standing there.
Oh, it's only going to get better. So, but thank you. We have any more? Step up, and then we'll. John, when all the.
Hello, my name's John Waters.
Hello, sir.
A resident for about 50 years there. And he's had a year problem, I've had 50 years of it. Our alley floods every time it rains. And what happens is it goes into our garages, into our yards, and into our basements. And we're getting mold, there's a health issue here now, and we gotta do something with that alley. The alley is shaped like a saucer. The high end on the north, and it goes down low, and then it goes back up, so it does not drain. The alley does not drain. And this has been going, every time it rains, it comes in. You go in the alley there now, you look at the 6 inches on every garage, you'll see a water line.
Right.
On every garage in that alley. So
I-
something's definitely gotta be done. Now, I was out there taking pictures of the yard, and my neighbor said, "Well, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm taking pictures." He says, "I'm coming to the meeting Tuesday, would you come and introduce him?" So that's what I'm gonna do. Dave, this is Dave, my neighbor, and we have other neighbors there.
That's.
How you guys?
How do you do?
Well, my name is David, and I'm native to Garner. And as John mentioned, I started this petitions. I passed these petitions around Bristol and Garner between Gladstone and Kitchener. So every single neighbor that I came across, that we came across, was up for this. And I was surprised when I found out that some years ago there was this guys started paving the alleys, and then it stopped right before us. I talked to Robert Lewis on the phone this morning, and he mentioned that he knew, looking back in the records, he knew about it. So my question, I have two questions. We all have two questions. What would it take for you guys to allocate the funds to pave the alleys? And when, after allocating the funds, how soon can you have it done? Because like John mentioned, it's a health issue. I have a kid, there's more kids living in the area, mold is being, coming across. Examining our basements, our garages, I mean, evaluating our properties, something needs to be done. And we ask you, what would it take? And how soon
Well, let me,
can you have it done?
I'd also, being a 60-year resident of the town, like Mr. Waters, back in the day, when Mr. Cindy was president, we had a state rep named Jim Durkin in an office on Cermak Road. He and Tom Walsh was a state senator. They were able to get a grant to pay for the engineering for certain alley improvements. The homeowners on the stretch of the alley all had to comply and sign that they wanted their alley done, and they were specially assessed for that. So you had the engineering paid for, but the homeowners were specially assessed the cost of X amount of square feet where their alleys abutted up to their properties. And my understanding is, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, if there was one homeowner that didn't want to be part of the game, that alley did not get done. So with that being said, the alleys that were done, and everybody paid, I want to say, their fair share, so to speak, to get it done. However, the engineering was paid for with the grant. If that's my recollection going back 30-some years.
100%. And what we had to pay was nothing, a couple $300 or something.
Yeah,
And you're right, it wasn't done, but that doesn't stop the problem. I mean, it wasn't done then because of one person, two or three, but it still has to be done. That's the point.
you well know that the alleys on the north side of town and them not being paved has been an issue for probably 50 years. Okay? It certainly has been done. Again, it's a difficult process. If the board so chooses to do that and have alleys paved in some type of fashion with some type of contribution, that's some discussion that's going to have to take place, obviously, for our next budget year. There are monies out there that we have for infrastructure that are certainly being used for infrastructure throughout the community with streets and sewers and roads and things of that nature. Now, you have to understand, in the last several years, since 2010, we've been inundated with 100-year storms with 5 inches of rain that, guess what? I mean, there's a video that Greg's ready to show, a nationwide one, where you'll see that this is not just the Westchester problem. In the last two events, the Eisenhower is flooded on a couple of occasions. The Kennedy is flooded. In the south suburban areas, it's all flooded. I mean, when you have 5 inches of rain, you're done. You're done. Let me finish. And not to be argumentative here at all. I'm just stating a fact. 1 acre of land in a 1-inch rainfall is 27,000 gallons of water. 27,000. An acre is probably 3 houses. Just information. So when the storm sewers fill up, the sanitary sewers fill up, which they do quite often, and you have a low spot at some point in time, the water's going to seek its own level, which if you are the lowest house on the block, you're going to get the water. Now, we can't change topography of people's yards to push the water someplace else. There's rules and regulations against that. I don't have an answer. Maybe Mr. Lewis has an answer. Our engineers have an answer. it's the age-old answer that's been dancing around the elephant in the room for the last 50 years on how do we fix the problem.
Let me ask you this. You
Sure.
mentioned that 5 inch, 6 inches of rain. Is that what we had in this past
It was
rain?
4.8,
Okay.
the last one.
So if that was the case in our alley, how come all the paved alleys are not, they don't have a single drop of water? I'm just saying, this problem can be avoided. A lot of things could be avoided.
Oh,
or
sure.
property values can go up,
Sure.
and everybody in Westchester can benefit from this.
Well,
So,
on this-
we ask you, I understand you said not in this year, but to allocate the funds, to prioritize the important things, not to fix the curves that doesn't affect people's houses. It looks nice, but it doesn't affect people's houses.
Well, I think you'll hear the village manager will indicate tonight, I think that's on her agenda piece. You know, we bonded out, we had a special referendum for a non-home rule sales tax. You're a new resident, so I don't know if you are aware of that. So that non-home ruled sales tax, it wasn't in place, and the state of Illinois gave us a guesstimate based on the regular sales tax of what we would generate, which was about $630,000. We bonded against that, and our bonding agent said that we could have taken $10 million in bonds. Well, you know, this is the first time we've ever done anything like this, and you don't know what the sales tax is going to be. I mean, it's a crapshoot, and we were a little bit conservative, and I think we borrowed like $6 million.
We were actually authorized, we did a bond ordinance authorizing us to bond out for $8 million. The board was not comfortable not knowing, having first-time estimated non-home rule sales tax, so we actually did bond out $5.8 million.
Yeah. So it's quite possible that there's some money that may be out there that we can bond more against because our estimations of this non-home rule sales tax are pretty much right on the money. The state, we're getting $630,000 or whatever the case may be. So it's quite possible if we look at another bond issue of some sort, maybe we'll do the same thing with an engineering plan. I mean, it's a discussion that the board should certainly have, and I'm not against having any. I want it fixed. It's as simple as that. I want it fixed. I don't want you to have water in your backyard. I don't want non-paved alleys, but there'll probably be some type of contribution to try to make it work.
I got another point.
Go ahead.
All of our aprons on our garages are lower than the alley. They didn't build them that way.
Well, that's
The damn thing's been
the other
built
issue.
up. They scrape it 2 or 3 times every year,
Yeah.
which doesn't, it moves the gravel, but it doesn't
well,
stop the problem.
that's there again is your other problem. There are homes on the alley that have been replaced that because they're in the floodplain, which you are probably in, I'm guessing, that when they replace their garages, they have to be put up higher. So there are places in a lot of the alleys where you have an old garage that was built in the 40s or early 50s that's lower than possibly your neighbor next door who has a higher alley. And then you have the street elevations on either end of your block. So trying to figure out how the alley's going to sit without a dip, or it's quite possible if we put the alley in at a higher level, then your backyard is going to be several inches lower than what the alley is next to it. So, I mean, there's not an easy solution. And I'm sure that the alleys that maybe were done, and Mr. Waters, maybe you know better than I, maybe the garages on that alley were not in a situation where you had so many high and so many low. I don't know. You're talking 25 years ago when some of that was done. But we have an engineer. We pay an engineer to take a look at it. If there's something we could do, I mean, the best thing we've been doing is trying to grade it to the best of our abilities to make it level, to take the potholes out, to put gravel and then roll it, to flatten it down to make it hard surface, to not have the potholes in there. But it isn't as easy as a quick fix.
Well, let's just hope this is an early solution. I mean, even if it's done, we want this to be sloped out to the street so it can run down to the water drains.
I get it. You know, and maybe,
We don't want to have this saucer problem because we understand there's no budget, but we want to have this as soon as possible, if possible in the next year, try to allocate some funds. That's all we ask,
I-
just for us, for you guys to help us out.
I thank you for your time, effort, energy, and I know this board, being what the board is, wants to help out in every regard, no matter what the issue is. Paulie and then Nikki.
Nikki was.
Oh, I'm sorry, Nick.
Just real quick, last year Representative Welch was able to get a grant for permeable alleys for the Grange Park. I had mentioned to him that the north side alleys have been on our radar for a long time, but given the heavy cost and the issues that we've ran into in the past, that, you know, perhaps that could be something that he could look into if those monies become available again this upcoming year. His office is right on Roosevelt Road. I encourage all of you guys, I mean, the state is what helped the previous boards get these alleys done in the past. This would be a great way, if there's constituents going in those offices and talking to them and telling them, you know, about these problems and the needs, that hopefully we could really, he could really dig deep and try to find some of those funds to help us and speed it up.
Problem is the alley fills up, that's what's filling up our yards. And like I say, the alley's like a saucer, high end, north, south, and the high end north. But you can, I think if you ditch, I was gonna go over and dig a damn ditch there the other day. About 12 feet, it would run, because there's an apron there coming into the alley, it would run down into the street. But the big problem is that all that water's sitting there for weeks. I mean, it's still there. Not as
Right.
bad, but it's still there. You got mosquitoes, bugs, stink.
Sure.
And not only that, your water level, like some pumps going on and off every hour because the water's
It's
sitting
still in the
damn
ground, yeah.
ground there.
I understand.
Yeah, and I think if I'm not mistaken, and Melissa could kind of add to this, if I'm not mistaken, we've applied for a permeable paver grant, have we not?
We did. We applied for an Illinois Green Infrastructure Grant. We applied last December. That's when the application date was due. They were supposed to be making the determination on who would win those grants. It was supposed to be in July, and as of about, I think it was just a couple weeks ago, I called to find out the status of our application, and they hadn't made the decision yet. So I'm not sure what they're waiting on to make the decision, but they haven't made it yet.
I made a little drawing if anybody's interested in it. I kind of drawn it. And we got.
We're always interested.
Well, you want me to bring it up?
Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome here.
This is what it looks like, right there. There's Kitchener, Gladstone.
Right.
Here's the houses, and with the W is where the water sits for over 2 days. It sits in their yard. I was up for 5 hours pumping it out, so it didn't go in my basement. But that's what, and here's how it sits. See, it's up high, comes to the
Low.
lowest point here, then it starts going back up.
Yeah.
Hey, we got tons of pictures. I don't know if you're interested.
Oh, no, I say the picture's here. Well, you know what? Here's what I want you to do. I want you to give this to Mr. Lewis, our engineer, and put your name and number on that for him, and we'll kind of take a peek. Obviously, we're not against trying to help and fix it.
Right,
Paulie.
something's gotta be done. I think the health issue, I mean, is an awful big issue. Not only we lost all the money and everything in our basement, I think the health issue is the biggie.
Just for FYI, and Mr. Waters, I agree with you on a lot of things that we've been trying for alleys for years. And I've been sitting here for a long time and fighting for alleys. And we've always had problems trying to get money to do it. At one point in time, Sam, I think you'll remember this too, it was kind of scheduled that we'd be doing one alley a year. And that's what was trying to be budgeted for. And then everything started falling apart and we couldn't do it. Some suggestions, and just FYI for us to sit and talk about and think about. You know, we now have the luxury of Robert being here, and Robert has some engineering skills that can help us in as far as dollars being spent as far as engineering an alley. We also, thanks to this board, and we've also have enough experience in throwing down blacktop on the streets that we've been doing a lot of stuff ourselves. Okay, so maybe if, and this is just suggestions that we all can sit down and see if maybe we can try to pull off one alley on our own with some monies that are tax dollars that are coming in. So that might happen, but, you know, if we all sit and talk about it and figure it out, maybe the guys can pull it off with Robert's help. You know, Sam.
Well, that was going to be my next commentary, that, you know, let Robert get a look at this. I know we've talked about it, about our staff trying to put an alley in. I guess the most difficult piece I see is the garage issues. If there weren't any garages there in different topography, it probably would be an easy deal, because we've now laid asphalt on both sides of the street, and we've done a terrific job in that regard, because we're getting better all the time with that. And, you know, the width of that alley is like 2 passes of the machine, so that shouldn't be a big to-do. I guess the scary piece is 2 things. With the gravel, at least you have some soaking into the ground. Once you asphalt it or put concrete or whatever you're going to put in there, you lose the permeability of the area as well. So those are factors that have to be looked at, because that water that's on that alley's got to run to someplace. If it's running to the street out in front and the storm sewers there, and in fact, I was looking at
We can also have a storm drain system right in the middle of the alley.
yes, but
But it'll still
it goes
be the
to
same place.
it goes to somewhere. It goes to either Devonshire, or it's going Gladstone or Kitchener. It's got to go someplace, you know, to those storm, you know, sewers there. And just remember, you know, in a excessive rainfall like we've been having, those storm sewers fill up pretty quickly.
Yeah, but not only when it rains 5 inches.
Yeah,
It also fills up.
I get it.
When it rains 1 inch or less.
I get it. Yeah.
Just to throw that out there. I invite you to roam around this.
Well, trust me, since 2010 and 2008 and 9, when we had some issues of flooding prior to me being on the board, I've seen enough water to last a lifetime. Trust me, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've been there. I just wish I had a magic wand to fix it more quickly than I can. But thank you, and we appreciate your comments and appreciate you stepping up and coming up. Anyone else in the public end? Hello, fine sir. Looks like you got a little sunburn there, yo. You better put a hat on.
I'm trying to take after you and, you know, stay out in the sun there and scrape a little. Bernie Farmer, 1124 Newcastle, Westchester. This is since 2010, this is the 5th time my basement's flooded. Going from 4.5 feet this last time 10 inches. Gets expensive. I kind of have one question. Are we really part of the deep tunnel project? Are we tied into it?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, okay.
Underneath the Gardner Road Bridge and Roosevelt Road, there's an interceptor just east of Gardner.
Okay. The reason is because I started out driving the truck in the 70s, early 70s,
Okay.
and I was part of that deep tunnel project. I hauled the pipe, I hauled the gravel, and that. We're in 2014, and all we keep getting is excuses from WRD. I realize water runs downhill, so when people here see water in their basement, they're thinking, this is Westchester water. No. Elmhurst, Des Plaines, it's all of them.
Sewage.
They're all coming down, they're just, you know, the water's just rolling along. There's nothing you guys can do about it. Because they're feeding us and this just keeps going. And if the Addison Creek fills up, we're gonna flood. That's all there is to it. But I was hoping that maybe the mayors could get together. I know this is not something you want to do, but all these towns that have faced all this unbelievable problem, the mayors all got together and filed a class action lawsuit against Water Rec and say, you know what, either speed up your pace, get this done, because the people are, I mean, you can't afford to do it anymore. You keep throwing couches away, you keep throwing furniture away, pictures of your family, you keep throwing everything away. And it's just, you know, I'm not blaming you guys for it, I'm just saying, we gotta get something going. I I mean, every time it rains, I gotta run home to make sure all the pumps are running and everything. It's ridiculous. You have to do it. You know, today, turn pitch black. What do you do? Drop what you're doing? Run home. So your basement doesn't flood again. I mean, I don't understand, you know, if who you've talked to or any of that, but we gotta find a way to stop this. But, and on your comment about good old John, I was one that didn't want to sign the petition for the alley. We were the first alley. I just lost my job, the company closed, and I had a new baby. John told me to sit down. So that was his reply to the whole situation. But in all honesty, I mean, we got to stop it. I mean, if the Eisenhower's flooded and it's got 5 feet of water, excuse me, I forgot to turn this stupid on. If that's got 5 feet of water, then there's nowhere for the water to go. So then the viaduct floods because that's the high point. So we're stuck between both ends. So the houses in between are the ones that's going to take the hit. We're dead meat.
You're preaching to the choir. I know you know that.
I know. I'm just. It's
I-
not like a complaint.
Only thing I could comment in, the mayor of Cicero did file an action after the 2010. Sir,
File a complaint.
wait your turn, sir.
Okay, I will.
Wait your turn.
You're right.
And it didn't go anywhere. It didn't go anywhere. We've all filed oral complaints. I've been down to MWRD more so than probably any mayor around here complaining about flooding issues. The governor, every time he sees me, says about Westchester's floods. I've been in a verbal argument, debate, discussion since 2010 about flooding in Washington, at FEMA headquarters, at FEMA's headquarters in Lisle. I've been everywhere to try to get some rectification. Addison Creek Reservoir, that's on the books and under engineering studies as we speak because we were pushing it. It takes years and years and years. It's not my years and years. I'm the guy that's cranking that said, guess what? If I had a spoon, I'd dig it out myself. But again, I don't own it. I don't know where to build it. I don't have it. I'm happy that the Eisenhower floods. At a recent Eisenhower meeting in Oak Park, the mayor of Oak Park said, geez, the Eisenhower flooded at 17th when the first flood. What are you going to do about it? And the IDOT people, because they're talking about redoing the Eisenhower within the next couple of years. There's been a process that they've been involved in for a while. Then I'm the guy that stood up and said, I can't wait. I love the Eisenhower to flood. If I could, I'd put a board on every grate that was there and fill it to the top. Then I know my houses aren't going to get it. Because you're absolutely right. The Addison Creek area, from Wooddale to Bensonville to North Lake to Stone Park to Melrose Park to Bellwood to us to Broadview to North Riverside to Brookfield to Riverside, where it hits the displays.
I had fish in my yard.
So, well, I'm just saying. So, guess what?
Sewage. This is sewage. Tell me about the groundwater. Tell me about the sewage, why we're getting sewage. Tell me.
Bernie, let the gentleman step up. If,
I'm done.
Come on, man. Tell me about the sewage and the infrastructure.
please introduce yourself.
My name is Steve Nelson. Janet, I sent you a letter, you couldn't respond. You didn't like it much, but I will. I am tired of it. I lived in this village.
Sir.
I forwarded that to the mayor, and he
Okay.
did send you a
Well,
response
responded.
today.
Nobody responded.
Yes,
I
you received a
responded
response today.
Okay.
Please check
Okay,
your
I
email.
will look at it. I lived there 54 years. I never had flooding. I lived in my house in Newcastle 22 years. Never had a flood. Never had sewage. Groundwater, okay, I can accept that. This is sewage since I talked about this to you, Sammy, and the board 3 years ago. This is because Target has nowhere for the water to go anymore.
The landfill's been filled, it has nowhere for the water to go, and the Eisenhower is undone, and it has nowhere for the water to go. Now, it goes down and it goes into Addison Creek, okay? So why is my sewage coming up? Now, it's groundwater, this is fine. This never happened for 22 years. What are you doing, and you, all your board members, doing to figure this out? Because it didn't happen.
Well, first of all,
Tell me.
we have no control of the Eisenhower Expressway. Now, I will tell you this, there's a meeting as a subsequent to my tirade at the Oak Park meeting in September with the people that are redoing the Eisenhower. And they're going to hear exactly what I'm saying here today
Why didn't we do this
to
4
them.
years ago?
I'm sorry?
Why didn't we bring this up 4 years ago? When
The Eisenhower was rebuilt, you're talking about the Strangler. It was before any of us, other than
How about Hillside Shopping Center? Where was that water supposed to go? It was all...
Hillside. Well, you have to understand, MWRD controls, listen, but I'm just saying, you think you know all the answers. MWRD decides and looks at every project that's put and authorizes what stormwater goes where. When we built the Dunkin' Donuts at 31st and Wolf, they had to get an MWRD permit to put the stormwater, whether it was stored on their property or put in the pipes, and went whatever. So I'm assuming that a project like the Target Plaza over there had to conform to the MWRD rules. I was told that there's underground storage underneath the Target, so if the fire trucks have to go there for a fire, that there may be some weight issues. Now, that plaza was built before I got in the game. It was finished in 2010, but it had all the approvals of MWRD and the Village of Hillside, whoever approved it, and it was built. The landfill, also, in the Village of Hillside. It was an empty quarry, and you'll see if you read my email that I sent you today, Mayor Tamburino wanted that to be a storage for water. The IEPA said no. They let it be a landfill because it was a giant quarry that would have been terrific for stormwater retention. It didn't happen.
Okay.
But those are 20 and 30 years ago decisions that were made.
20 or 30 years ago.
Now,
we
wait,
had
let
Mayor
me-
Sidney here.
let me
We had
finish.
all you guys here. What did we
wasn't
do
here.
it for the infrastructure of Westchester to change the north side of town before it's ruined? What do you got planned? New sewage? You paved my street last year, you didn't put in new sewer. You're getting your street done right now. Up by you in High Ridge, there's new sewers going in. Hall got new sewage going in. What are you doing for us
No,
on the
there,
north side?
you're missing a point here.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Before
What-
your street was done, the pipes were inspected and they were in good shape. Or they would have been replaced, like at Portsmouth.
Okay.
Portsmouth had a collapsed sewer. That sewer is being replaced because it's collapsed. All the sewers from the Eisenhower Expressway south, the sanitaries are 10 inches. They're the same 10 inches by me. They're the same 10 inches in other parts of the town.
You have sewage and storm sewage going through your pipes.
I have an overhead sewer.
Okay, Sam.
You have a conventional sewer system,
No,
correct?
right,
You have
exactly.
well, let me finish. You have a
Okay,
conventional
right.
sewer system. 80% of all the inflow and infiltration in the sewer lines is because of lateral lines from your house to the mains that are in a state of disrepair. They're either broken, cracked, and taking in excess stormwater.
So what's your plan?
We're responsible for the mains.
What's your plan?
We are responsible
What's
for
your
the
plan
mains.
to
What I
save
would
the
suggest to
infrastructure of
you,
Westchester?
I would suggest to you,
I'm tired of this, Sammy.
well, what do you want me to do?
I'm tired of it.
I got water in my house as well with
Bullshit.
seepage.
Bullshit.
Well,
And I'm gonna tell
you're
you
out
that.
of line.
Oh,
You're out of
right.
line.
Right, I'm tired of it.
John,
I'm
would
tired
you
of
please
all you
escort
guys.
Mr. Nelson out?
You're right. You don't have to escort me. I'll walk home.
Thank you.
You've done nothing
Thank
for
you.
all you guys. You should all be
Thank you. Have a nice day. Good for you, my friend. Good for you.
I got one comment on this. Not this rain, but the big one we had prior to this, when my basement filled up to the ceiling.
Yes, sir.
We were pumping water across the street. Their sewers was here, your plumber, the head of the plumbing, I didn't look into it, but he retired, I never got the answer. Why across the street we take it and ours wouldn't?
The only thing I can tell you about the piping system in town that I know. Okay, let's.
I'm gonna shut up.
All right.
When the cop came by and he said, you can't pump Westchester's water
Into the brook. Okay.
I said, God, put
As I understand all the piping systems of Westchester, and I don't know how this was set up 50, 60 years ago. Okay? In his case, Mr. Nelson, which I tried to explain to him in an email, there's 10-inch sanitary lines that run down the middle of all your streets that get to, in his case, the Strand. It goes to a 15-inch as it starts going east toward Gardner Road. It goes to a 24. It goes into a 27 by the pump house. And then it crosses Gardner Road and goes into the MWRD interceptor. Also, there's another 27-inch line that's taken water from even the High Ridge area across Manheim through the park to Chaucer that also runs the Gardner Road. That's also going to the MWRD interceptor. Okay? There's another 27-inch line that runs straight down Devonshire in your neck of the woods that takes in the High Ridge area, also that taps into the line on Gardner Road. On the Broadview side of Gardner Road, there is a sewer line that comes from Bellwood, and I believe there's some hillside infiltration in that as well. All that hits underneath the Roosevelt Road Bridge and goes into a 27-inch line. So I can't figure out for the life of me how three 27-inch lines that come together that are full of water are going into a 27-inch MWRD line with a restrictor on our side of the bridge, and how that works. Somebody has to tell me, but MWRD can't. So, all I could tell you, in 2010, we did a wholesale cleaning of every sanitary line in town except for the south end because we couldn't get in the Forest Preserve. However, we put a pump right in your neck of the woods, you probably heard it, underneath the Roosevelt Road Bridge and bypassed the MWRD. Obviously, we had to get permission and pump directly into the MWRD sewer for a month. For a month. We could hardly get a camera in the Gardner Road line to look at it because that pipe was always full of water. So, those are the issues that are here. They're here way before me. MWRD has, it's their piping system that we enter into. The deep tunnel isn't done. All it is a piping system that holds 2.5 billion gallons of water. You have the city of Chicago dumping into the deep tunnel. You have all these other communities dumping into the deep tunnel. And a lot of these communities have combined sewer systems. So they're not only getting sanitary, they're getting 100% storm. So they're getting 100% of all the water that's coming off of roofs that aren't splashed off on the ground. They're getting it all. We have two separate lines, and unfortunately, the condition of those lines on private property, as well as some public property, are old. Now, if Mr. Nelson would have been here, and if he reads my email, a suggestion for him would have been to put a check valve on his sanitary, which I did at my son's home at 2104 Portsmouth because he got a bunch of storm water in his yard and got some sanitary in 2010. I put a check valve in, I put Permaseal, I spent $8,000, and since that time, I haven't got a drop. Now, I know that's a lot of money, granted. No, let me finish. But again, a check valve itself would work.
I know how to check valve works. What the hell good is it if your basement basement's flooding this way, down the steps.
That's river line flooding, and you're absolutely correct. There's really nothing you could do with riverline flooding. When the water goes over the banks of the Addison Creek, or when it comes over the banks of the Salt Creek on the south end, or over the reservoir, guess what? There's nothing you can do. You could stick the check valve you know where.
How come the basement's flooded, 2 hours later it's dry? How'd that happen?
We're told when the rain stops, it catches up. There's no magic levee or plug or whatever thing that somebody thinks there is with MWRD, and it naturally catches up with itself and goes down. Now, I'm not an engineer, but I think Robert would bear me out. I see him shaking his head at everything I say. For a guy that's a policeman and not an engineer, I'm sure know a lot about storm sewers and sanitary sewers because I've been standing in them and walking through them. Now, the Addison Creek situation, they're trying to get property to build a reservoir and a holding station with X amount of foot acres at Lake Street and Manheim Road. They're negotiating with the property owners.
We're just getting rain now, we ain't getting the creek, we're getting rain.
Well, that's what rainwater is.
For 4 or 5 days or more.
Yeah.
It's still sitting.
Well,
I mean,
because you have a low-lying thing and it's not draining off. I'm sorry?
if I dig a ditch in the alley, will I be in trouble?
I would imagine we wouldn't want you to dig a ditch.
If I think of this, would I?
I'll tell you what.
I mean, we gotta empty that damn alley.
Ah. Mr. Lewis knows the problem. He'll be out there tomorrow and see what we can do. We've pumped from people's backyards. We've done that before.
Call me, so I can.
We've done that before, so we'll try it again. Again, people, and I can understand the frustration of Mr. Nelson. Trust me. The last thing you want to do is have sanitary or any sewer, whether it's clear water, dirty water, any water in your basement. Stuff gets ruined, we throw it away. It's horrible. But this is not just a Westchester problem. Every town around us is having this issue. There's a video, if you want to take a minute and look at it, that CNN did about changing weather patterns across the country where 13 inches of rain fell in Long Island, New York. Burbank just got tortured on 87th Street. The Eisenhower got flooded. I'm not God. I wish I was. You know? Well, I feel like I've been on the cross. I think Mr. Nelson put me there. But again, I mean, if this board could fix this situation, we would. But we're in the throngs of it, and Janet will tell you, and this board will tell you, I'm fighting with everybody on the planet as far as monies. The governor came in and sent an email and said, we want X amount of dollars maybe to buy houses. Okay, now what houses do I buy? Okay, so I buy yours, yours. Okay, they only give me enough money to buy 5 houses. There's 6 hands up, so somebody gets screwed. So that's really not an issue to do. So I said, do me a favor. Give me the $500,000, and I'll add it to our program and try to put in 300 check valves. Now, it won't help. It's not going to help riverline flooding. It's not. When the banks of the Mississippi and all these rivers go over, who's ever in the way is getting washed out, period. But as far as sanitary backup, where you're not getting riverline flooding, like, you know, in a conventional non-overhead sewer basement, it's going to help that. And this board instituted that process a couple of years ago to try to get, we're in the second phase now, to give some monies toward putting check valves in or overhead sewers or lift stations or whatever to try to address it. The village can't do it alone. There's got to be buy-in by the people that own the house. I mean, it's as simple as that. I'm sorry that it's raining 5 inches and putting hundreds of thousands of gallons on top of rain roofs and we have nowhere to go with it. But his 10-inch sewer line is the same 10-inch line by me. I have an overhead sewer. Not going to happen.
I mean, I appreciate all that information, but our problem is the alley floods and then the floods our house.
Right.
You know, and
I
it
got
sits
it.
there. It sits there for 5 or 6 days.
I got it.
Exactly, and it stinks. You walk there now, you throw up.
Well,
It stinks. It's not healthy. I'm wondering if I call the health department if they come in and do something.
maybe they'll bring you a pump. I don't know. But Robert will take a look at that tomorrow. I don't know.
I called up and asked for a pump. I called up and asked for a pump. I'll pump the damn thing out.
Well, we got the information. I was given some global information about a whole host of things that I happen to know about because I've been hit in the head with it 6 times in the last 5 years. So, hope I've answered some of your questions anyway. If I could fix it, trust me, I'd fix it today. You don't think that I'm pissed off that, you know, and doesn't help you per se, but the retention pond that we have back in 1975 that now has to be expanded, that it takes 3 and 4 years to get that done, and the engineering and figuring out where the dirt's going to go and all that. You don't think I'm pissed off about that when it overflowed once? If I could put all the water from Addison Creek into the Eisenhower Expressway so you wouldn't get a drop of water in your basement, you don't think I'd want to do that?
Is the guy coming over tomorrow to look at that? If he would, I'd like to,
Coordinate with Robert. But he's got it. He knows where you're at.
show him what's going on,
He will absolutely take a look.
if you don't mind.
Yeah, no,
Mr.
no.
Waters, provide Robert with your, a phone number
I
that
think
he
he's
can
got him
contact you.
he's got the sheet that he gave
On
him.
the plans.
On the plans.
Drawing.
Okay.
So, again, I wish I could help more, but I only could do so much. I appreciate it. Good, it's your turn. Step up. Introduce yourself. Yes, sir.
The two last rainy, I'm flowing. I don't understand.
I'm sorry?
The two last rainy, I'm flowing. I live 16, almost 17 years here in Westchester.
Yeah.
Very nice place,
Yeah.
very nice area. But I'm flooding Saturday, you don't know what to believe me, about almost 7, 8.
Let me ask you, is it similar to Mr. Waters?
Same block,
No, I mean, is it,
same block, same.
but I'm just saying, is it coming up through your sanitary or is it coming in through your window wells?
No, from the sewer. The bay-
I'm sorry?
the bay-
From the sewer. So it's not like breaking a basement window and rolling in that way.
No, but one time when I flooded 7 inches,
Well,
the water coming from the river.
right, and right, that's riverline flooding. Again, contact Melissa, who's right over here. She can give you an application if you want to try to do something with a check valve or overhead sewer to prevent the basement backup. It will never prevent a wave of water coming from Addison Creek hitting your house. But it could prevent sanitary backup, which is the health issue. Okay? So. Okay. Come on up.
Hi, my name's Matt Richard. I live over on Newcastle on the 1100 block. I know I've lived here since 2007, and ever since then, it's literally been every other year we're getting water. I understand I believe it was 2008 or 2009, the Addison Creek broke the bank, and we did take water in from.
It was 10.
Okay, yeah, okay. 2009.
September 8
And then
was the first time we had some
we had
backup.
water coming in through our windows at that point.
Right.
And that's the only time that FEMA or flood insurance acted on anything. And every other time it's been either seepage or the sewer backup.
Right.
And I know I walked in a little bit late. I thought the meeting started at 7:30, but things that, suggestions maybe, would be with the check valve system or possibly looking into, I understand that you get the tenant strains and feed into everything, but possibly expanding that, seeing that we are getting more.
Say that again. I'm cut.
When we reevaluate the sewer systems,
Okay.
possibly expanding to a larger pipe, just because we are getting more severe weather, that's dumping more rain more rapidly. It is very disheartening coming home, every time it rains. I worked out, an hour away. Every time I see a bad storm roll through, now I'm worried about if I'm gonna come home with a foot of water in my basement. You know, and I know you suggested a check valve and calling permanency, but that is expensive. And for me to look at it, from when I bought, then the market crashed, then we have constant flooding. You know, it's very hard for me to justify spending money on something that I'll never see the return on. I mean, my basement's virtually useless. Everything's up on blocks because I don't know when we're going to flood.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, you know, I take my washing machine, my dryer down off of cinder blocks every time I need to do laundry, and then have to put them back up because we might have a storm rolling through, and I'm going to be an hour away, and there's nothing I'm going to be doing.
Yeah. I understand the plight. I'm not the engineer, and there, even if you increase the pipe size, say to 10 inches or to 12 inches, it's still going into an interceptor that's only a certain amount of inches, you know, which we don't control.
What about talking to Metropolitan Water?
You know what? I've talked to him till I'm blue in the face.
Because, I mean, like you said, it's not just Westchester. It's not just Hillside. It's the entire area.
Again, we've talked to them. They hate to see me coming to 100 East Erie. They hate to see me coming. You know? I wish I had a magic wand. I don't. You know, they control it. I've been down there. If you want to write a letter to David St. Pierre and all the commissioners and tell them how they're not doing their job or whatever the case may be, I'm all for it. Maybe we all should. I mean, I've been beating the drum since 2010. It's the only reason I ran for election in 2009. Because my kid's house got tortured in September of 8. December of 8. January of 9. And then I stepped up to the plate. The only reason, because you know what? I got to solve this. It's as simple as that. And boy, God taught me a lesson. I'm not solving shit. Let's face it. Trying to.
I mean,
you know?
I understand that you're only one person, but I mean, can't you work with any of the other communities and go at this together?
We have been working with the communities. The Addison Creek Restoration Commission started back in the late 80s to try to address a lot of these flooding issues because North Lake gets tortured, Stone Park gets tortured, Melrose Park gets tortured. Half of Bellwood is in the floodplain east of Manheim Road. We get tortured, so does Broadview and North Riverside. They put some stuff together. They got money from the state, $1.4 million over probably about 5 or 6 years, $200,000 a year to do engineering studies, to do whatever. They came up with a concept of the Lake Street Reservoir. It was dead. I got on the board over there and I said, let me take a run at it because Mayor Pasquale was the president at that point in time. So I went down to MWRD, I testified, I said, this is crazy, blah, blah, blah. This happened in 2010, and I got them to take it as a watershed study. They do 6 studies. That's it. They picked the 6 projects that they want to do. It got picked. From 87 until 2011 and 12, it was off the chart. They were spitting in the wind. But MWRD took it. We had a little pressure to put on them, situations. And guess what? It got picked. So now it's being worked. The engineering that was paid for by Christopher Burke is part of that project. Now they're trying to negotiate, price for the operation. I mean, there's water that comes off at 290, which the guy told me the other day at the meeting, that no water goes into Addison Creek, which I find it very hard to believe, which I can't wait for the meeting in September.
I'm not going to lie, I just don't believe that. There's just no way.
I don't believe it either. So, again, we'll have that conversation, especially if they're redoing the Eisenhower and doing some whatever. They've had a couple issues themselves. They don't want their Eisenhower flooded out.
Well, I understand it shuts down traffic because it's from Manheim to, 17th that it shuts down, or Manheim to First Avenue?
I don't care if it's shut down to the Circle Interchange.
I understand it shuts down that whole scenario, mean,
I-
it's just, the frustration is just, it's twice this year.
Well,
You know,
trust me, if there's anything I know about frustration in water. So, I'll keep you in the loop, my friend.
thank you.
Okay? Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Step up. Come on up. We're friendly.
My name is Orlin Zeta.
Yes, ma'am.
And I live in 759 Bristol. And with all the discussion that is going on, and it kind of gives me some idea on how long it's going to take for all this frustration to go away. Could you keep us posted on, or update us with what's happening, or do it in a bulletin or something? So we can.
I usually try to do that in my newsletter. I try to put a little blurb in it. I mean, if you go back probably to April of 13, when we got hit, there's some back issues of stuff. I mean, this is not new stuff that I'm spitting out now. This is stuff that we've been working on, for a while. But I thought I was pretty good about putting information in our newsletter about what the hell's going on and where it is or whatever. When I get an update on Addison Creek, I try to include it that, guess what? They're in negotiations with the property owners. That's the last I heard. You have to understand, I'm not doing the negotiations. It's another governmental entity, and all I hear is they're still negotiating and nothing new to report. Now,
When was the last time?
in May. That was the last information that they were negotiating with the property owners. That's the last I heard. Now, I have a meeting with Representative Welsh and some other mayors coming up in September. And obviously, this is going to be addressed hot and heavy. I've addressed it hot and heavy with Danny Davis at a mayor's meeting about 2 weeks ago, and chastised the governor in his presence. The governor wasn't there, but I told him, you should tell the governor I'm pissed off, and because he's done nothing to us other than come out here and give me lip service on my steps and at different parts of the town, and there's been no assistance. In fact, if you want to really know the frustrations, I'll give you one that really hit home. In 2010, everybody was flooded. We got a disaster declaration, right? Okay.
That was the first time I had.
Cook County didn't have a hazard mitigation plan. So the $500 million they spent in the state, because it was not only us, DuPage County and everything, Cook County was unavailable to get any money because Cook County didn't have a plan. They weren't entitled to a dime. So what did we do? Westchester put our own plan together. Screw the county. We'll do our own. We did our own plan. And then we submitted for funds to jump over the county. Okay? 2013 comes in. We had our plan certified in June of that year. I know we had flooding in April. We applied again. And you know what they told me? Guess what? We're not going to pay for any pipe systems. We only want to spend money on buying houses and knocking them down. I said, you got to be effing kidding me. That in 2010, you were looking for pipe projects, and in 2013, after we busted our ass to put this plan together, irrespective of Cook County's plan, you're telling me we're screwed. So the screaming match between me and the IEMA people down in Springfield went on in a few nasty emails, which only I can send, traversed each other. But we got screwed. I mean, it's as simple as that. So for anybody to say that we're not doing anything, this whole entire board, and I have everybody's they're all in support of what we're trying to do because we're all here to try to help you. We're not here to try to hurt anybody. But you want to talk about frustrations? You got to be kidding me. So anyway, to answer your question, as soon as I know something, it goes in my paper. Now you have to understand that my paper is 15 days late all the time because it goes in. So you need to know that. So this paper is going to talk about the August 5th and 6th event, but it's not going to talk about the one we had the other day, unfortunately. Okay? But anytime you got a question, shoot it. I'll give you an answer. You may like the answer. You may not like the answer.
Residents are looking for updated information, improvement, and how can we help each one of us.
I get it.
Live in Westchester.
All right.
To participate in whatever project, voluntarily, we can do it, like cleaning up or whatever
Yeah.
to prevent all this flooding. And, it's a waste of money. You buy something and it's destroyed.
Yeah.
And, for the flood insurance, which I have, we have to pay a deductible of $1,500, and if your damage is only 2 to 5, it's a lot of money for us.
Yeah. You probably pay what, $1,500 to $1,700 a year? I'm guessing.
Right now, it's about 500 just for the flood insurance,
Okay.
because I have a small home, I pay half.
Just some information for you. We have this in our lobby as well, and I've mentioned it, I know, in a number of the articles. Floodsmart.gov. Check out that website. It's an insurance website where you kind of pick your poison, so to speak. You pick your amount of coverage and things of that nature. It's a federal government program. I'm not sure if that's the flood insurance that you buy through, but that's a website, floodsmart.gov. Again, there's literature in the lobby and stuff like that at the Village Hall, but I know I put that in, in my my reports as well.
And what's frustrating also is the property tax goes up and your house depreciates in value. Yes,
Yeah.
that's
Well,
honestly.
and I know, and here's the thing as well. Mr. Barrios is well aware of those types of situations, and you can go to the assessor's office and file appeals. There's appeals to that. There's certain windows of opportunity to that, and if there's a loss and things like that, they can adjust that property tax to a certain degree. The assessor does that. That's not something that we do. So,
I'm really hoping we're going to go on a positive side to expedite whatever remedy, the entire, trustee, you as our village president, can do to help all the neighbors in town that are having really this problem. Every time it rains, it's just so frustrating.
I got to worry about two sides. This side, that side. My house gets seepage. I have an overhead sewer, so I don't get the sanitary. But I get seepage. And 9 times out of 10, my carpet is soaked and got to get thrown out in the basement, but I don't get to it for a couple of days because I'm busy doing something else. I have to tell you, in all honesty, I had this situation at my son's home on Portsmouth, and as soon as I did these things, albeit I spent $8,000. Now, could I have just done the check valve and not the permaseal around the basement and been fine with sanitary, with the sanitary not coming up, and spent maybe $2,000 for that or whatever? There is a program that the village doesn't run, but through the National League of Cities, which you probably got some, mail on, that does some sewer line warranty. So if you need if you have some blockage on a sunny day or whatever, they can come in and look and they can camera your pipe to see if there's a break in it that they may have to, dig it up and replace it, which they will under the insurance. They're only going to do that piece. They're not going to do the whole section. But I would suggest that if in the event that you have that insurance and there is a problem that they're replacing a section of pipe somewhere along the road,
I think we are paying like, I don't know, it's about.
it's $52 a year,
I
right?
did.
Okay?
I did mine, this is the second year.
Yeah, well, you know what? Give them a call. Maybe there's a break in your lateral that you're getting some infiltration, and if they have to fix that while they're digging it, you ask them, hey, how much would it be to put a check valve in? You already got the hole dug, and you're already cutting out a section of pipe. Maybe that's the time to put the check valve in and the clean out. I don't know. But it's far less expensive than you calling Joe's Plumbing up to dig the hole and do whatever. So, again, these are things that are out there that we're doing, offering to try to help, although it's not our program, but we endorse it, and we've had some great pleasure. If Celeste was here, she would tell you she had a good experience with that and didn't cost her anything. I could tell you a horror story of a friend of mine on Robinhood that's spent $8,000 because he didn't have the insurance.
I do want
So-
to briefly mention that they will be mailing out letters, I believe, next week for a fall campaign for anybody who's not enrolled in the sewer line warranty program. You should be receiving letters next week, and you may want to look into signing up for that.
The program does work. My parents use it. They saved thousands of dollars just recently on it, too.
Same here. My mother had a problem with the toilets backing up, and she just called, and they were out there the next day, and they cleaned everything out for her, and no problem. So, it's what you're paying for, so don't be afraid to call.
I mean, just information, dear. And thank you for your patience and your understanding as well.
Very good job.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you for all the comments. Yes. Chief, you're up.
On a drier note, not to, feel for these people, as you know, I live in Willow Springs, at the same problem, 91st and Wolffield, Santa Fe Speedway, the Black Creek goes over. This last week, 91st Street is closed, you can't exit Border Route 3, can't travel north on Wolf Road or south. Luckily for an unincorporated street near our house called Elm, we're able to sneak out a back way, and at times, you're totally isolated on an island, the whole suburb, at 91st and Wolf. Because we're next to the Des Plaines River, Cal Center, Black Creek, this is bad as Madison. In a new townhome, I've already had to throw out my carpeting, wasn't covered by State Farm because it wasn't back on sewers. Had to rip off the drywall, had to repair the wall. It cost me several $1,000. And our values, of course, run on taxes. I appeal every time I get my property. I have a window in my township, and I won on two occasions because my house was assessed at this higher rate than comparable to my neighbors. I found the cars, and I was overcharged. 3 times, probably out of 6 times, I've won once. We're worth your while to try to either hire a professional attorney or whoever, or a firm, to they specifically target those homes that take, the tax bills are too high. That's for kind of use. I pay about almost $1,000 a year to the village of Willow Springs, in my property tax bill for the village. They have no street department, they split them off, they don't have any funds, they have the entire street department. There's a fire department, a fire protection district. The police department is cut in half. I used to be a chief there, it's cut down to 2. I went from 20 officers down to about 12. And yet, and our streets, we own our streets. They're private streets. They pay garbage bill, a vehicle tax, and almost $1,000 a year in property tax for the village. And buy my vehicle stickers and do whatever I have to do. They really have no responsibility in our subdivision. They give us no service. If there's a problem on our streets, we have to replace it. Homeowners. So I have my own stories. On another note, I wanted to introduce the room for you, or who's the man? As you know, when Lieutenant Jeff Bush retired, I was looking to replace the lieutenant. I asked the board if they consider replacing the position with a civilian, so we could save the village about at least $30,000 by hiring a seasoned veteran police officer. So we did a search, we had 28 applicants, we interviewed candidates, we brought back Frank for a second interview, introduced the candidate to the village manager, myself and Lieutenant O'Hagan were doing the interview. Lieutenant department. We thought Frank would be the best fit. Frank has got over 30 years of law enforcement experience, served as a police chief at Morton College, served City of Oakland Terrace, retired as a sergeant in the village of Stone Park. He's familiar with the 4th District Court, where he'll be a court officer for our village. He's going to be in charge of the photo enforcement program, the records section of the police department, all the administrative duties, working with the emergency management. He's already hit the ground running. He's been here 2 days, and I think he's going to be a great fit with the village. He's at a far reduced rate than what we pay a sworn officer. So I think his benefits, he's a civilian employee, not a sworn officer. And I think it's a good fit. He does a great job. I can say he lives here in Grange Park. I found out through the interview. I've known him for years. He was a volunteer firefighter in Westchester. Don't call him Daniel.
Like Malpere.
I was a volunteer fireman here at the age of 19. I was coming from Cicero at the time, so it was very difficult to make the call, and then trying to read a map with all these different curved streets to make it to the call on time, it was impossible, so I just kind of gave that up, and kind of realized that I should go into police work instead. No offense, Chief, but graduate of DePaul University, graduated with a liberal arts degree, a bachelor's degree, and also finished my master's degree at DePaul in public administration. As a career police officer, I've seen quite a bit. I've been involved in a lot, and I feel that my experience and expertise is in anal attitude. Basically, what I'll do is take the minute time to fix things and get things right. So if there's anything I can do, please call the village and we can help out. If there's anything I can do, as Chief said, anything that is needed in the records department, anything that involves that particular department, I'd be glad to help.
Thank you. I mean, I've known Frank for a number of years. We served together on a police alarm system, riot squad, civil disturbance team. He was a team leader at that point, and he's going to be a great asset to the police department. So, welcome.
Thank you. So. And all the residents that are here this evening, I have over 40 years experience as a police officer and chief in a few towns. I was brought here a year ago as the first outside police chief. I have another year left in my contract, but if at any time, for any reason, you have a question of the police department, feel free to walk into the police station and ask for me. My name is John. I have an open door policy. I don't ask who's there, what they want. If I'm not available, I ask the lieutenant. Everyone knows that the buck stops here. If we don't have the answer, we'll find you. We have a great group of people. I'm blessed that had 30 sworn officers that do a fantastic job on a daily basis. And we really proved themselves in the last couple of months. Just hard, old, good old-fashioned police. I don't know what I mean when they sound within the community, street safety. Very proud of the men and women of course. Need something, feel free anytime, go up and ask your client. We'll be glad to help you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just want to mention that Melissa Headley, who is our Community Development Director, has brought up some of the applications for the flood assistance program. If anybody's interested, just indicate to her and she'll give you a copy.
Okay, anybody else? Thank you for your commentary. It's certainly appreciated. You know, getting the feedback. If I got the answer, I'll give it to you. If I don't have the answer, I'm not going to bullshit you. I'm just going to tell you I don't have it, but we'll get it. So hopefully we'll be able to solve a lot of these problems together over the next couple of years and hopefully make it better in the future. I don't know. So, all right. Consent agenda. We have A through I. Janet, I don't recall the mutual aid agreement. Is that something that we have to? I remember talking about
Yes,
that.
we talked about that several
Did we?
meetings ago.
Yeah, that was on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, all right. Does anybody need anything pulled from the consent?
Chief made a presentation.
That's what I thought. I'm sorry, Chief.
2 meetings
It
ago.
was 2 meetings ago, yeah.
Okay. Not hearing nothing, is there a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
I think, Mike, you want to go through it? You want me to
Yes,
go
for the
through it? All
purpose
right.
of the Open Meetings Act, we have a record of bills in the amount not to exceed $1,138,390.18. We have approval of minutes from the July 22nd executive session and from the August 12th Village Board meeting and Committee of the Whole meetings. We have an ordinance approving an amendment to the budget and appropriation ordinance for the fiscal year ending April 30th, 2014. Janet, do you know the amount of that?
It is included in, it affects 3 separate funds, and the amounts are included in an attachment to the ordinance in the amount of,
It's page 21.
thanks.
You got the number, Tom?
It's page 21.
No, I'm saying you got the number.
Oh, no, I don't have it in front of me.
There is not a
Sorry.
subtotal by.
Oh,
Okay, next we have a resolution accepting the bid of Genco, Genco Industries, Inc. That's the Godfather's olive oil
Olive oil.
company, but this is not for olive oil. It's for the purchase and installation of a generator at the Village Hall and the fire station in the amount of $231,080. We, as the mayor mentioned, we have on the agenda this evening the resolution approving the Ilias agreement. That's the mutual aid agreement with the Illinois Law Enforcement Alarm System Board. Next is the agreement approving a resolution authorizing the execution of a lease with PNC in the amount of $95,076. That's a lease purchase agreement for, is it 3 autos?
For 3 police.
3 squad cars.
3 squad cars, yes. Also, an ordinance allowing for the purchase and installation of wayfinding signs for the business districts. That's a contract with Western Remac, Inc. in the amount of $10,953. We then have 2 resolutions approving facade improvement grant program agreements. One is with Michael Manzo in the amount of $6,250, and the other is with Christos Taltsidis in the amount of $7,500.
okay, those are the issues, A through I. Is there a motion and a second to approve?
So moved.
Frankie? I'm sorry, who's the second? Paulie? Roll call, please.
Trustee Gutsuso.
Aye.
Trustee Perry.
Aye.
Trustee Stecker.
Aye.
Trustee Yocum.
Aye.
Trustee Gutsuso. I'm sorry. No,
Aye.
President Hughes.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 8 on the active agenda, resolution approving change order number 1 to the contract to Jetco for the Enterprise Drive 2 million gallon high water tank exterior painting project in the amount of $10,880. Any commentary? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Tommy and Angelo? If there's no comments, sure be the roll, please.
Trustee Perry.
Aye.
Trustee Stecker.
Aye.
Trustee Yocum.
Aye.
Trustee Calpagno.
Aye.
Trustee Gutsuso.
Aye.
President Hughes.
Aye. Motion carries as well. Managers report.
Just a couple of things to mention this week. As I previously mentioned, residents will be receiving the fall campaign letters from the sewer line warranty program, so please look for those. And just wanted to let everybody know that Village Hall will be closed next Monday for Labor Day. As always, the police desk will be available 24/7. And that's all I have this evening.
Mr. Attorney.
Nothing for this
Michael.
evening.
Board members, EDC, you got a meeting coming up, correct?
No, we just had one on Monday.
Monday, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and we continue to go over the wayfinding signs and the facade grant program, but we're also starting to talk about some kind of a beautification movement with the businesses taking care of the areas around. It's beginning stages, but that's what's going on.
Good, and you know, we may want to hook up with the cab.
Right.
And I think Celestine was going to help out in some of that beautification piece as well. So we try to hook up and do a better job.
Very good.
Okay. Nikki, anything?
Nothing tonight.
Paulie?
Just ended the NASCAR show Monday night. It was our final one for the year, and we had a great year. A lot of good things, a lot of nice bands, and we have one more band due Thursday night. It's called Claremont Drive. Come on out and join us. Starts at 6 o'clock, and that'll be our last one due to the Mariano's reconfiguring of the parking lot and doing everything else. So I would urge you to come out and enjoy a nice concert. Thanks for free. In the parking lot at 31st and Bell.
Great, thank you, Paulie. Thanks for putting that on for the entertainment of the citizenry. It's very well received.
My pleasure.
Angelo?
Just a reminder, the second Saturday of every month is the electronics recycling behind the fire station here. And we don't meet again until the second Thursday of September. We did not meet in August here, so that's it.
Tomas?
I have nothing tonight.
Okay, my turn. Did I hear it? Uh-oh?
Yeah.
Like I didn't say enough this
Yeah.
evening? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Okay. Well, I do have some correspondence that I would certainly like to read, and actually, this one I received this morning. This is to myself and certainly the village board. On Friday night, August 22nd, I accidentally took a double dose of insulin. My blood sugar went totally down, and my wife could not bring me back. She called 911, and the paramedics were there in a short time. They were all underlined, very kind and courteous, and I want to thank you for having this service available to us. Please extend my sincere thanks to the paramedics that helped me. My sugar level was 13 when they arrived, and this is a Mr. Vito Valerio, a resident, Paul, of your Old Street. I did contact him, and he is a Korean War veteran, and I asked him, how the procedure went, and he sang the praises of everyone. I said, from dispatch to police and fire personnel, he said he was out of it, but his wife said everything went textbook. So I thanked him and said, anytime you need anything, don't hesitate to call. But he was very complimentary of all the services that all of the entities, NORCOM and the police and fire, rendered. Second one I got also, let's see, this was August 22nd. Thank you for the music festival at High Ridge on the 16th. It was a delightful evening spending in our own community. The bands were great, and by judging by the number of people we saw, it was a good turnout. It was orderly and organized. This was much more enjoyable than the large Westchester fests on the grounds of St. Joe's in the past. We thought that more and more undesirable elements were coming in at the fest and stayed away as a result. Have we thought about having a once-a-week music concert, perhaps at the same venue, High Ridge, next summer? We have been going to Oak Brook, Burridge, and Countryside, and would totally love to stay in our community for a change. Probably they did not know that Paulie was doing them every Thursday night, which I will indicate to her. I don't have a number, but we'll track it down. This was the Phillips, and also the fireworks were terrific. So that's another good letter. As far as my report, I think I said enough with the flooding situations that we're all in. I know this board has worked very hard, and certainly not only me, but everybody that's sitting up here to try to rectify some of these problems to the best of our abilities. I wish we could be more positive, I guess, and have all these things taken care of. Hopefully we will in the future. I think we all have the game plan. I'm sorry. John.
Regarding item F that was on the consent agenda, where it was approved for the purchase of 3 2015 Ford Explorer squad cars. One of the cars is parked right out in front here. You came in this evening, that black car with the MP plates. We just received it. They haven't been striped yet. We haven't had the opportunity to get the equipment installed, but we just wanted to show you that the cars have been delivered, 3 of them. At the next board meeting, I'll be asking to order a 4th car. That car is paid for courtesy of Cook County Homeland Security. As you know, we received a grant for $33,805 for our officers to work overtime on afternoons, patrol high-profile areas, shopping centers, parks, to make sure we do our best to shag people out, make arrests, and keep a handle on things here within the community. So we have officers working in tactical attire, not full uniforms, 2 at a time, paid for courtesy of Cook County Homeland Security. From a federal grant passed down to the state, passed down to the county, and in addition to the $33,000, they gave us $26,000 to buy a new squad car. So that's pretty significant. I think we had about 5% of the funds awarded to the village throughout the whole county. So of all the money they received, they gave us 5%. Since I was here last time I was here, I mentioned that we received money for 30 bulletproof vests, which we need to replace next year. Half of that money's from the federal government. And since last meeting, we just received a grant of $33,984 from the state of Illinois from IDOT, Department of Transportation. We do saturation patrols, we do click it and ticket, DUI checkpoints throughout the year. So starting October 14th of this year through September 15th of next year, we are able to hire our officers back and pay them overtime at the rate of a total of $33,984. So if you look at those numbers, it's pretty significant. It's almost $70,000 in police overtime paid for by the county and by the state. So that means we have extra officers on the street. We also just were informed that we received a grant for 3 iPads that'll be soon arriving here at the police department. And in just doing all the numbers with the car, the overtime from those 2 sources, and the bulletproof vests, so far this year we've received over $100,000 in grant money for the police department, which is very good. I know last meeting the mayor wasn't too happy about the state's attorney's office failure to approve some burglary charges on some suspects that we had apprehended. In the past few months, we were able to solve a few residential burglaries when we apprehended 2 individuals as a result of matching up their fingerprints. After that, on midnights, we apprehended 5 people running around the north side of town. They were breaking into cars, and they had also broken into a residence while the people were sleeping. We apprehended all those people. Then after that, we had 5 more individuals that broke into a unoccupied factory on the east side of town, and it was on Gardner. They were stealing the copper wire. So when we apprehended them, the state's attorney's office didn't want us to charge them. They let us clear a case for Broadview, but they said we didn't have enough evidence to charge them for the incident in Westchester. There's 832 state's attorneys, so ask any one of them a question, probably get a different answer when we call these people at 3 o'clock in the morning and ask for approval for charges. Well, lo and behold, after last meeting, these people got greedy. They came back to Westchester, 2 carloads of them, and they have walkie-talkies. They're talking in between each other, very sophisticated operation. Apparently, they realized that stealing copper is a nonviolent crime. They could probably try to, get in the guise of the evening, sneak in and out of a community. So they came back to the scene of the crime. Our officers alertly apprehended them once again. This time, I called the head state's attorney in Maybrook, which isn't really a protocol. You have to call felony screening, but I had enough, and I asked the head state's attorney to help us out here at Bridgeview, or Maybrook. He did. We got the charges approved. We also seized both cars. So we have the burglars' cars here, and we're starting the paperwork to try to permanently get those cars assigned to us. If you look, we have a fleet of about 12 cars we've seized. Some of we sell, we reuse the funds. But right now we've got the burglar's van, and we've got a fairly new Chevy Malibu that's got like 7,000 miles on it. I think the bad guy hurried up and tried to get a lien placed on it. So we may, if we get it awarded to us, and if we could pay a few $1,000s to get it, it'd be worth it. In the meantime, they're off the street. They don't have their cars. We have them here. So it's going to take them a long time to get the cars back. So in response to the mayor, he got his wish. We got the charges. They came back. They got stupid. And we were able to, so that's like over 15 people that have been arrested for significant crimes within this village in the last few months. Burglary suspects, thefts, residential, and motor vehicles. which is outstanding. That's phenomenal, without working like any major undercover operations. But having the extra manpower on the street and having very aggressive police officers, I could say the residents should be very, have a peace of mind knowing that these officers are very aggressive, they're doing their jobs, and I'm blessed to have them under my command. So, other than that, I think that's all I have.
I think you had one additional activity last week in the police department that we haven't talked about. Greg, do you have a video?
Oh, okay.
I want to see the other video.
Yeah, it's we were challenged for an ice bucket challenge.
Thank you.
Now we have to do it slow motion.
Oh, boy.
And this was in support of the ALS. It's a charity thing that's going around this summer, if you guys haven't heard about it.
I wish I could show you the cherry afterward. My wife got challenged by our godson to do the ice bucket challenge. So yesterday, when I did the video with the iPhone, to show my godson that she did the challenge. I didn't date it the first time. So she had a good one. And on my phone. It wasn't good. So she was hoping to wait for me to do it.
She's contacted an attorney. And, you know, all that, half of what John had all his life is gone. So actually, I spoke to a few members of the board.
You were out of town.
Yeah, I was out of town. But we're going to try to get something going with the Public Works Department. Hopefully tomorrow or the next day or by week's end. So.
I did it twice already, John. Does that count?
So, but thank you. I know the Village of Broadview, their police department, accepted your challenge and did it, and you can see a number of people. And if there was a nice article today by a young lady in the Sun-Times about her friend who had this ALS disease and went through it. And you know, all kidding aside, we look at a video and. You know, it's fun and games and that, but it's one of the most debilitating diseases out there that just, it's like a paralysis, and a very difficult situation that was in the paper today. Anyway, Jimmy.
Just a couple things. Earlier this month, myself and Chief Carpino met with a couple of the schools and went over their emergency response procedures for the year. We have actually scheduled a lieutenant's exam with the assessment center being September 22nd and the written test being on October 6th. All candidates have been notified at this point who are eligible. Fire department's having their open house on Sunday, October 5th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. So planning's underway for that. We'll have our sprinkler demonstration and some other demos going on that day. We're just putting things together now for that. So, also, as of this morning, we have a tentative date to actually have a fairly large-scale state-funded drill, and I've been in contact with St. Joe's to use the old St. Joe's property for this, set for possibly November 6th, a multidisciplinary scenario, the scenario being somebody with an IED inside the school, you know, simulated with that it's being occupied, and the disciplines that are going to be involved at this point are the TRS team, hazmat, EMS, and police. So we're just literally had our first planning meeting for that this morning and got the ball rolling on that. And the nice thing about it is the state's paying for everything, backfill, any overtime. You know, we'll probably be building some props and stuff like that to be used inside those classrooms, especially on the north end, is the game plan at this point.
Jim, do you know if, and certainly John as well, are we going to contact ILEAS to be part of that as well? And I would
like I said,
suggest
today
that-
was just the first planning stage with all the chiefs in Division 20 because we were contacted. So today was the first step, but yeah, by all means, we're
I
going
mean, what I'm suggesting is that you, with John and that, in addition to the MABUS contingent, that if we're, you know, going to utilize that building, there may be some training opportunities for an ILEAS call-out in some fashion.
Sure. Yeah, I had mentioned this about 2 weeks ago, but there was nothing. We hadn't even met on it at that point. It was just
I just
an
wanna
idea.
put it on the horizon, that's all.
Definitely, definitely. And then just want to remind people, kids are back in school. You know, drive slow, look out for kids, and you know, definitely stay off your phones at all times. But at least make sure you're off of them in the school zone, especially. But you shouldn't be on your phone at all while driving now, anyway.
Thank you. Maureen?
Even though the auditors have been off-site, we still continue to work with them to finalize our numbers for the end of last fiscal year. We don't have the numbers final yet, but as soon as I get them, I will be presenting them to the board. In the meantime, we've been working on our first quarter financials, which I'll be talking more about during the committee of the whole.
Great. Thank you. Gregory?
Just a little something on the next event, which is being hosted by the Park District in cooperation with the village, is the back-to-school event at the Community Center, Friday, November 5th, 5 p.m. It's going to go
September, Greg.
Did I say November? I'm sorry, September 5th. I'm sorry. Looking at a calendar for the other events as well. Yes, September 5th, 5 p.m. at the Community Center. We'll be presenting a movie, the Lego movie, after the darkness sets in. So please come out for that. Also, just as a calendar note for October, Saturday, October 18th, will be our Fountain Fest. We're still putting together some of the details in terms of the time, some of the activities we're looking to do there. I believe we're looking to meet on Monday to sort of shore up all those things. And, of course, as always, we'll have that posted on our website. That's all I have for today.
Thank you, Greg. Robert?
I have an update on construction projects and a couple issues I'd like to discuss with the board. The first item that I have is I'm seeking the board's opinion on our restoration program. This time of year we go through in the parkways and we do restoration for water main breaks and where we remove trees and grind the stumps. This year we have 235 tree removals where we need to do restoration work. And we've got 18 water main breaks. We've budgeted this year for Synop to do this and ask them to hold for a week until we can get your opinion on this matter. One of the things we ask residents to do when we do these restoration projects is to water the seeding that we put out there. We currently have a water ban in effect. And this activity is exempt from that. But what we would be asking the residents to do is not water their lawn, but water our seeding. We have the ability to postpone this until April, where we can reseed it at that time. Rather than me just making a decision, I thought this is important in how we're perceived on how we also obey the water ban. I think that's worth a discussion by the board and your opinion on whether or not we should go ahead and ask the residents to water the seeding that we're putting out there while we're enforcing a watering ban, or should we pass and wait till April before we do the restoration?
Well, let's see. We grind the stumps out, and some of these are ash borers, and some of these are other trees that have to be done. And obviously, we once we grind it up, we pick up the spoils, and then we put black dirt on. So the question, I mean, generally, it's a 10 by 10 area that we seed, and we ask the resident, I don't know, every other day or whatever it is to, you know, don't soak it, because you're gonna wash it away, but kind of keep it damp, or
Water it.
put some kind of blanket over it of some sort, and I know we were doing that as well. Are we still utilizing the green blanket with the nutrients on top of the seeds? I know we've had the rolls of that in the back.
For the trees, I don't think we're doing that for all of them. We have 235 sites. I'm not sure we have enough material for that. The water main breaks are typically larger, where we do a large dig up, and we use them for that.
Well, I would guess it's quite possible that, you know, our ban is gonna be over at the end of October. So I guess if there's a possibility that they get the painting done early, we can end it early. I mean, it's all weather dependent, you know that. And
We use I'm assuming a commercial seed, so the gestational period of the seed is probably a little shorter than stuff you're gonna go out and buy at Home Depot. I mean, maybe 7 to 14 days versus 21 days.
Comes up pretty quick.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, you know, we're in the rainy season right now, too, which may help. I mean,
in the past, when we had the last water ban, when we did the interior of the tank, I don't think we cut down 200 trees, of course. We were probably in the beginning of the ash borer situation that we have, you know.
because we're asking them maybe for the first 3 weeks to kind of make sure that it, you know, stays wet, and hopefully just that area.
Well, if we delayed the seeding portion of it, and I'm just talking out loud now, till the end of September, and we went back and seeded, say, October 1st, as we get closer to the close of the water ban, at least we'll get a start on it. I know last year, if you remember correctly, we had a situation where the streets on Hydorn, because we replaced the water main and sewers and things up in that, when they had a bad water main there, we actually left the restoration to April. So when the snow was on the parkway,
And if your seed doesn't
we
take...
saw the dirt.
If your seed doesn't take fully and you start getting below 40, 45 degrees in the evening, it's dead, and you're gonna end up doing something next year
Again.
anyway, so, yeah,
I
maybe,
mean, if you just fill
maybe
it
we
up
just
with
wait.
dirt and kind of grade it off.
Yeah, then you're gonna leave a mess.
Yeah.
Well, that's the question. The tree stump is either there or it's ground out already. Once it's ground out, there's a pile of spoils that's gonna be removed. So once you remove that, you have to put dirt in it, a safety situation on the parkway as well. So the question is, do we seed it and let them water it a little bit? Maybe some instructions, it doesn't need to be drowned.
If you
And the
don't
sprinkling is
do it
only
now, is what
for-
I'm saying is, I'm sure you're gonna agree with this, if you wait till October,
You'll have weeds.
you run the risk of a lot of seed not taking or
Right.
dying off right after it grows.
Mhm.
So you either do it now or you gotta wait.
Well, what's
I mean, here's an idea. Are the stumps out already? Is that what we're talking, or have they?
Wait on the stump, on
Trees are down, not all the stumps are ground yet.
if we hold up.
What if we hold off with the removing the rest of the stumps until spring? I mean, yes, but at least
Okay, of these 235, are stumps ground out already on a number of them?
On a number of them, yes.
Okay, well, I think Tom probably has a great idea that we can indicate to those residents that have stumps in front of their homes that are not ground out at this time, that due to the water ban and the potential that the seed won't take, that we're gonna grind them out in the spring and then do the restorations then. The ones that have been ground up and dug up already, we probably have an obligation to try to put those back. So I don't have your number, you know, the 235, but there may be a lesser number of that we can do the start on it and basically split the,
I mean, just tell
Split up.
Sonnet to leave the stumps
yeah.
as
This- I
close
mean-
to the ground as possible.
Yeah, this way here, the grass isn't destroyed. It-
Mhm.
So I think that would be a great compromise. Any
I agree.
issues with that?
Okay.
Sounds like a good idea.
You know what? Sorry to interrupt. Just while I'm thinking of it, I did get a complaint from a resident on Portsmouth. They had something with a power line and a transformer blew. ComEd had to go into a couple of backyards, and when they did, they had brought they just brought it like a bobcat, but they ripped up the grass. Now, when they replaced it, they didn't use topsoil. The guy found glass, a number of other things that should have been backfilled for something, and that was done. He called and he complained, and then they came over and just put the green cover on top of it, but they didn't replace the soil, and he was worried because he had kids and everything like that. And I just didn't know if there was, you know, for the future, if Robert could be aware, if you guys could be aware that if ComEd's gonna be doing anything like that, I mean, it's obviously a hazard, and that if they're getting subcontractors in there that are just throwing garbage dirt down, that we need to just keep an eye on that.
Yeah, and had they, you know, let us know, we certainly could have called our field rep.
And that's exactly what I told them. I said,
Interesting.
if you're getting any pushback, you know, to let us know that we have the contacts that can get to the person you need right away. So I did tell him, you know, if he has any problems to contact us, but.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I think we're good with that. Did you have, Robert, anything else? Something else?
Enterprise Drive.
I'm sorry?
Enterprise Drive.
Enterprise.
There was a state bid. We had a pre-construction meeting today. They're ready to begin the repaving on September 15th. That's their start date. They'll be removing the asphalt, removing curb and gutter and concrete aprons, and replacing the concrete, and get a brand new pavement down. Their end date is late October. On my review of the plans, we made sure that in the bid documents, we got concrete aprons on all the residential drives. So we will have that implemented, consistent with our new ordinance that requires all residential drives to be concrete. There'll be some ADA improvements and sidewalk improvements, so they're getting ready to start that project up.
If I could, if you would contact Steve Makata, and tomorrow, if you don't have his email, I will. I believe he's the president of that homeowners association, although the streets
They
are
were at
ours.
our pre-construction meeting.
Was
We-
Steve
We
there?
invited them because we know they're re-roofing all of the homes in there and re-siding a number of them.
Okay.
So we invited him to the open house and coordinated
Beautiful.
with the new contractor that's gonna be on site, dates and times so that they can get their work done and we can get our work done.
Because I know he was very interested in, when we put that project out to them, he wanted to be kept in the loop, so, as the president of the
We're
association.
coordinating parking and where they're gonna put their dumpsters, and so we had 4 of their members at our meeting today.
Oh, good, well, you're ahead of me then, great, thank you.
Oh, never ahead of you, Mr. Mayor.
That's what I like, somebody ahead of me.
Third issue, street lighting, LED replacements. Have all our parts, and we had scheduled the replacements to begin, and our work has been done. The installation contract was scheduled to begin last Thursday. However, it's difficult to send an electrician out there in a thunderstorm, so we canceled last Thursday. It was scheduled to begin this Monday. Again, the thunderstorm, the electricians won't go up in a bucket during lightning events. He is scheduled to begin this Thursday. He has all the replacement parts. I've asked him to double his crew sizes. If he does that, we should be 7 to 10 days away, working days, as long as it's not a thunderstorm, to replace all the defective lights.
Okay, so we have this straight. All of the 20 control boxes have been outfitted with the surge suppressors.
Yes.
And at his expense, the contractor who installed the lights is putting in a surge suppression unit in each of the poles.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so we have a 7 to 10 day window. I know there's been some emails that we've received from some residents. I would imagine there's probably a dozen or so. If you
30,
wouldn't mind sending out a blast to those, we can put it on the website as well, but the ones that have emailed or sent a letter or something that inquired about those, to keep the progress going.
Give
So-
an update, okay.
Are we gonna be able to keep some of those drivers like Sam
Yes.
suggested last meeting?
I've asked him for some replacements. He said we could have those.
No, the bad drivers,
The
to
bad
go,
ones.
to go
Oh,
get tested and stuff.
I told him what we'd like to do, and I haven't got a response, but we certainly can say, you just have to deliver them.
That's a requirement. They-
I
they
was
do
working
test
with
them.
Meade, but he's not hiring Meade. He's got his own guys, so
Well,
What?
I'll have to be more direct with him.
again, I think they need to be independently tested to see if there was a manufacturing defect, or is what it is. I mean, that would be my requirement and recommendation. I think the board concurs with that assessment.
Fourth item I have is I'm in the early stages of putting together a comprehensive capital improvement program. I'd like to address over multiple years what we think should be done in terms of infrastructure improvements. Not looking at the money so much, because that comes later when we look at how much we have, but putting together a comprehensive program that addresses the water system, the sanitary system, the storm system, the streets, the alleys, the buildings and grounds that are requiring capital projects. This will look at multiple years, spread it out over multiple years. It'll be multidisciplined. This is still a good opportunity where there's low interest loans available for public loans. And it's an opportunity for the board to consider the amount of bonding that we can still do, and then start considering priorities. Now, it'll take a couple months to put this together. We won't have anything ready for a December bid, but we could certainly put things together so we can start discussing when our budget year starts coming up, what to fund this year and then the following years. And it's a real juggling act with priorities as to how much you spend where and what, and there's a lot of things that need to be done. Been working with the village manager on other sources of funding to try to get some of these infrastructure programs to get state assistance, federal assistance, any kind of assistance that we can find. So it's pretty comprehensive. And as we go on in time over years, we'll get more and more detail and I think a better package. But I would really recommend having a longer program so you can see what's down the line. We can program, and when people show up at our meetings, we can say, you're scheduled for year 3. We'll have an answer. Whether the money comes or not, that's another issue. We certainly have to address that. But I'd like to put together a capital program to show the need, to show what needs to be done.
Are you thinking
Work
like a
with you to prioritize.
5 to 10 year, program?
Well, I think you do both. You need a 5-year program, but you need to start looking out
Right.
10 years for some of the larger projects and larger equipment pieces. And I think that's just the prudent thing to do.
My opinion would be that we need, a lot of time is 10 years from now. I would suggest that we look at a 3-year and a 5-year.
Well, you
And get that off the nickel.
you do the 10-year because these things are going to change. Priorities are going to change from year to year. You know that.
There's less detail when you
Right.
go out 10 years. You just identify
Exactly.
one thing.
That's
Not a
just
lot of
telling you what you think in 10 years you're going to be looking at, on top of what you're doing now.
Sam, if you don't mind, we're gonna go out.
You heard enough, huh?
You gotta stay till the end.
In
for a
Yeah,
penny,
nope.
in for a
Lock
pound.
the door.
There's plenty left.
Yeah.
Lock the
Well,
door.
again, I thank you all for coming. You're welcome. Gentlemen.
Thank you guys for coming out, though. Thank you. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
I didn't think it was that boring.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Robert.
Item 5, Mayfair expansion. We have a pre-bid meeting this Thursday, 28th, where we have potential bidders will show up. The bid opening is September 12th. That's the Phase 1 portion, which is the excavation and expansion of the reservoir. There's a Phase 2 where we've got some preliminary engineering done, which is the conveyance. Gonna redesign the conveyance and try to keep the spillover and the overflow and the conveyance side from doing what it's been doing in the past. So after the bid opening for the earth excavation project, we will start looking at earnest for the Phase 2, that particular design.
In regards to that, the Phase 2 is the conveyance from Carlisle or from the retention pond to Sunnyside. What I'm gonna say worries me is we need to have a conveyance system that carries it to Salt Creek. What we did last weekend with the storm sewer and the 6-inch pump from Homeland Security that shot the water in the Forest Preserve District, was an emergent situation to prevent, catastrophes from happening on the south side there. One of the things I want to look at, and I brought it up to Janet today, and I think we're going to talk to Mark Zesch as well. We have a sanitary relocation program in the mix to come back off of Stratford to Sunnyside, and either in the street or the Parkway or however it's going to get in a different
correct.
conveyance system and a brand new sanitary line into the MWRD interceptor in LaGrange Park. And in the middle of the night last night, I thought about, we have a 27 or 30-inch sanitary that runs parallel to Sunnyside in the Forest Preserve District, that crosses the creek just before 31st, and then it crosses 2 more times in LaGrange Park, which is going to be abandoned at some point. I don't know the topography. I don't know the depth. However, that line also runs down Carlisle midway on the path between the bike path and Sunnyside. So I was thinking, my pea little brain, is there a way to use that abandoned line, which I don't know the condition of it. They say there's probably 8 inches of soot in it. We can't get in it to clean it. That's the reason for the relocation. But I'd like to see whether or not that line, although it's running parallel, but it does enter the creek close to 31st Street. May there be a way? Because I could see some pushback from the Forest Preserve District to dig up anything in there, to be quite honest with you. That's why we're relocating the sanitary. But if that pipe that now is going to be abandoned, and like I said, I don't know the topography, I don't know the depth, it may not work at all, but I think we should take a peek at that to see whether or not we can attach at Sunnyside to the Carlisle section, get it into the Forest Preserve and get it into the creek, because it's already going into the creek, without digging any more dirt up in the Forest Preserve District, that we may have an issue that might take a lot more time. Because I'm certain that the Forest Preserve District would have a little bit of angst by us just shooting stormwater into the preserve. Obviously, we do it as an emergent situation.
Right.
We've done it twice in the 4 times that we've had an issue. But there always seems to be a hiccup with Forest Preserve and storing stormwater or putting stormwater in. So if we have a pipe underground, maybe there's a way to convey it to the creek that it's getting there, but without digging anything or adding anything. I don't know. but I had that thought in the middle of the night, and Janet and I were looking at some plans today as we were addressing Mr. Nelson's concerns on the east end of town and the south end as well. So, maybe take a
We
look.
have a-
Maybe they'll say it can't be done.
We have a coordination meeting coming up. I'll let you know. And those ideas, I had a few ideas myself, but I have yet to see their preliminary plans. And I asked for a showing of those plans. I want to see where they are. So if we have ideas, that it's not too late to incorporate them. So I asked them to slow down a little bit till we can have a review, and then we need to start up. We also need to coordinate what Burke is doing, the Sunnyside sewer relocation, and what V3 is going to do with the conveyance portion, phase 2 on Mayfair. Because at some point those pipes are going to cross, and they're not talking to each other. So I need to make sure we don't have a change order in the field during construction of one of those projects. So I want to bring those two designs together to make sure that they're both going to work independently of each other. So there's some coordination issues that need to be done as well. So I think we're coming up on the next week or two where we're going to have a meeting and start looking at ideas. And they needed to get enough information and do their initial surveys to bring back data so that we're looking at real data. And just as you said, we understand the slope and the elevations out there. Then we can start making some real decisions. I'll let you know when that meeting is.
Good. Because, and then also the other thing I want to make sure that we do is somewhere in the retention pond itself, whether it's now or after it's built, I would like to put some type of pipe, post, something in there that shows the foot elevations.
Yes, I've
In
coordinated
different
that.
colors as well, so
Yep.
guess what? When it gets to the yellow or orange or the red,
Yes.
we know what we're doing. In a similar vein, I think there probably should be something at Carlisle to match up, and hopefully at the end of the line, so, when it gets to this peak, we have to be in the early warning phases. Now, I understand with both the last two events that we had, that the retention pond probably went up about 10 to 12 feet, and we had some great monitoring by the guys
Yes.
there at Carlisle, and at this point in time, we had at Sunnyside, and they were talking to each other when to put the pumps on, when to put the pumps off, on, off, and manage that flow so it didn't go over the street and wipe out Mr. Ossendorf's house, because he's right off the corner.
I've had discussions with our operations staff on how they do that and when they do that, and we'll have some gauging posts. We thought there were 3 areas that they could use, that it would be a little more sophisticated than the technique they're currently using, which is the base of the tree and the steps out there. But we've surveyed all those in, and we're going to put gauging sticks out there that'll be easier for them to see. And we're going to coordinate our operations with the designer. He has those elevations, and we'll put in those gauging sticks when we do stage 2 or even at the end of the phase 1. He didn't think that was going to be a huge cost and thought it was a great idea. We're also going to look in our CIP as well as we develop that to do some modifications in the pump station that will help convey that water even better. There's a couple pumps that need some tune-ups. There's some impeller trim that needs to be done, and there's some automation that we can do rather than sending crews out to keep looking and then coming back and no, it's not ready to pump yet. And we waste several hours, several guys just checking. If we could put a camera out there, we could do a dynamic monitor from here and know when to send crews out. That would help as well. But we'll need to look at that, coordinate with the designer, and we've got a bunch of ideas to make this run more efficiently.
And the other thing is, last year was as a result of the 13 situation, when we had to run get a generator from Homeland Security, we put in a, what do you call it, a trace or a pipe run to the outside of the creek, and we have it stubbed out just inside I think we need to make plans. So if in fact we lose power and we borrow a generator from Homeland Security, which we were able to do, that we can hook up that generator with a twist-turn connection and upgrade some of the electric panels in that pump station. Because what we did in April, and you weren't here for that, was we ran 2 live cables from the generator to the panel to keep those pumps running. We were standing knee-deep in water, holding on to 240 volts of power, which probably wasn't the most safe thing to do. And that's why we ran that chase underneath the ground through the concrete there to prevent that, because really all I want is a plug and play.
Yes.
That there's a box out there, the generator comes in, we put the twist connections on there, we flip the switch or shut the power off or whatever we're doing to make it run on generator power until the power is restored, and then the transfer could be made safely.
That's a common application on pump stations, to have emergency generator plug-in, and that's a standard.
That needs
We
to
could
be
put that in.
completed. We did, I won't say phase 1 of it, but we did the piping, the concrete. We just have to get it to the building, which is probably a 10-foot run, and then inside the building to a panel. Maybe that electric panel needs to be upgraded. Don't forget, it's 1975-ish.
I believe it does.
But that needs to be, that's an emergent situation that needs to be worked in. So, just giving you a heads up of some of the things that you didn't have a clue what we're doing with it. All right, anything else?
I just wanted to mention one more thing that I forgot to mention earlier. I wanted to congratulate Mayor Puglia for being nominated by the LaGrange League of Women Voters as one of their 2014 Persons of Impact. So Sam will be honored, I believe, on Thursday, is it September 18th, at a reception at the Peabody House at 5:30. So. Congratulations, Sam.
Tommy.
Can you pass it to Sherby?
Thank you. Melissa, hiding in the background there.
Yep, wasn't sure if you were gonna call on me. I just
yeah,
wanted to
we'll
let
miss
everybody know that the agreement with Regency has been executed. There's a copy at your places just for information. And there were just a couple minor changes to the distances that were listed to the utilities. They all basically came out in our favor, so the distances were lengthened that Regency will be responsible for. And because the language of the resolution is what was approved, even though these minor changes, even though there's these minor changes, it doesn't need to be re-voted on by the board. That was really all that I had for tonight.
Thank you. Ms. Sherby, young lady, what have you for tonight? Okay, anybody have anything else for the board? I know we have executive session after the Committee of the Whole under 5 Ilix 122C1, appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or discipline specific employees of the public body. Did somebody have something?
Yeah, I'm
Sure.
here. I got a call from the fire department today. My story is I bought a building at 15th and Westchester Boulevard 14 years ago. Sam, you probably recall it. And I've got a sprinkler system that's hooked to nothing. 14 years ago, Captain Belmonte had Jack Waters do it. And I've got $20,000 worth of sprinklers on my first floor and my basement. And we were waiting for the water main to come down Canterbury Drive. And 7 years later, it never did. Then I was getting notices that were going to be fined $750 a day because my sprinkler system wasn't hooked up. That's when you came to a meeting.
Hey, weren't you going to hook up in the front or something, or what was going?
They changed the rules. Then it was, I needed to hook it up in the front, and that would cost me $30,000.
Because you had to move, if I remember correctly, you installed everything in the back and had to move something up front.
All the valves are in the back because the water was gonna come down Canterbury and down the alley. It never did. So, 5 years ago, I'm being fined, still nobody knows what's going on. I said to Belmonte, I said, why did the water department tell you that it's gonna come down Canterbury Street? John Feckerata at the water department at the time says nobody ever asked me. So, make a long story short, I've got all of this stuff, 14 years, and, how important was it that it was, that I needed that sprinkler? And now I'm expected, it would have cost me about $1,500 if they actually brought it down. And now they're saying $30,000. And I get a call from the fire department today. Are we gonna start this all over again, or what's going on?
I know we have some conversation in our committee of the whole to discuss some of these sprinkler system things. Let me ask. Yeah, okay. All right. Let's do this. I know I have it on one of my discussion items for the committee of the whole. Let's end our board meeting, go in the committee of the whole, we'll jump you to the top, and
Just don't wanna be fined $700.
you're not gonna be fined $750. Let's lay that to rest right now till we figure out a solution, okay?
Yeah.
But let's adjourn this meeting and get into the next one, and then we can have some more flowing conversation regarding that, because
We're gonna talk about it in a minute.
I have an issue, so sit yourself down here. Motion and a second to adjourn our board meeting. Frank, beat you. And Nikki, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I don't know, maybe you want to stay in for another hour or two? Okay.